Under the Trump administration, India is set to buy a lot more oil and gas from the United States. The US is already the world's largest producer of oil and also the biggest exporter of liquefied natural gas. But what does this mean for India? Why is Trump pitching US energy to India? And how will this impact India's oil imports and economy? This is Shubhangi Sharma. Let's dive in. The United States produces 19.4 million barrels of oil per day, which accounts for 1/5 of the total global oil production. While most of this production is used domestically, Trump wants to ramp up exports to boost the US economy. For India, however, the US is currently the 5th largest supplier of crude oil, trailing behind Russia, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. But Trump wants to change that. During a joint press conference with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, this is what Trump said.
I think some very big things to talk about. Number one is they're going to be purchasing a lot of our oil and gas. We have more oil and gas than any other country in the world by far, and they need it and we have it.
India is the world's 3rd largest oil consumer after the US and China, and the 2nd largest oil importer. Over 85% of India's oil demand is met through imports, making it highly vulnerable to global oil price fluctuations. Lower oil prices can boost economic growth, while higher prices can trigger inflation. Right now, India's largest oil supplier is Russia. Before the Russia-Ukraine war, Russia accounted for less than 1% of India's oil imports. But after Western sanctions on Russian energy, Moscow began offering discounts, making it an attractive option for India. Today, Russia supplies nearly 40% of India's crude oil, with total imports from Russia amounting to $48 billion in 2023. However, this has created a trade imbalance. India's exports to Russia stand at just $4 billion, leading to a large trade deficit. Additionally, India has been paying for Russian oil in rupees rather than dollars to bypass sanctions, causing a buildup of rupees in Russia's kitty, which it is supposed to pump back into India. But to balance trade, India wants Russia to buy more from it. Meanwhile, other top oil suppliers to India include Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. And as we know, the Biden administration saw oil exports to India stagnate. Now, Trump's push to sell more oil and gas to India could work in New Delhi's favor. As the fastest growing large economy, India's energy demand is constantly rising, and having more suppliers allows it to diversify its import sources. The key factor, however, will be pricing. India has made it clear that market forces will dictate its purchases, meaning the US will have to match or beat Russian and Middle Eastern rates to become a major player in India's energy market. One challenge is transportation costs. Shipping oil from the US to India is costlier than from Russia or the Gulf, but if the overall price is competitive, India may still consider increasing US oil imports. The two negotiating countries could also get these details worked out in an upcoming trade deal that may also include tariff reductions to balance trade. Currently, the total US-India trade stands at $129 billion, but there is a growing trade deficit for the US. The US has a $45.6 billion trade deficit with India, meaning India exports more to the US than it imports. The gap has been widening due to India's increased electronics exports. By increasing energy exports, Trump aims to reduce this deficit. Another area where US energy could benefit India is liquefied natural gas. India's LNG imports are steadily rising as the country shifts to cleaner energy sources. Currently, Qatar is India's largest LNG supplier, accounting for 54% of imports, followed by the US and the UAE. India recently extended a $78 billion LNG deal with Qatar until 2048 on favorable terms. At the same time, the Modi government has set a target to increase the share of gas in India's energy mix from 6.5% to 15% by 2030. This means India will need more LNG imports in the coming years, providing an opportunity for the US to expand its presence in India's energy market. For India, this means more choices and a chance to negotiate better prices. More energy supply in the market also helps keep global prices in check, benefiting India's import-dependent economy. At the same time, higher US oil and gas exports to India could help balance trade, strengthening India-US relations beyond just energy. The big question remains though, will the US be able to offer competitive prices? If so, India may just become one of its top energy customers in the years ahead.